Hey guys, this is Crap Hunter, and welcome back to World of Tanks. Woo! And welcome to the live server for patch 9.3! Yay! Yes, the patch 9.3 has now finally joined us at the time of this recording, September 25th, Thursday. Don't ignore that, that's the part of the XVM mod that I just got. Anyway, yes, the patch 9.3 has now joined us. Yes! I was very much looking forward to this one. Now, if you haven't watched my first impression videos, or you have recently joined the channel, here's basically to summarize what's happened. Try and be as quick as I can. We now have a new interface. This lovely, shiny thing. Yes, a nice shiny new interface with a whole new method of doing the same thing that we did before, but in a shiny new way. We now have the ability of selecting the different settings now, like, you know, just generally it's just different icons to to add a little bit more modernness to this thing. So yeah, you can do that now. You've also got the new personal system, so you can see your service record from here. You can also have a look at your clan statistics if you are part of a clan. There's my statistics. Here is the new premium way to get premium stuff. So generally speaking, it just looks nicer, you know, it has a little bit more a fineness to it and all that. Here's the platoon creating device, but, you know, we don't need to create a platoon. You get a lovely new image, along with the leave platoon. So a new style of having a platoon, which is rather pleasant. You obviously got your massive battle thing, but also you have a new method of choosing battles. For some reason, I'm not allowed to go near historical. Oh dear, I probably bitched about it too much, either way. And then finally, you've got the new... the 3 new tabs, which, like I said, all of this it's not like the most big change of the patch, but it's a nice new lift, you know, fresh look on something, different style, and like I said earlier, don't worry about this is not part of the new thing, though that would be cool. No, this is the new part of the XVM 9.3 mod, so I haven't seen this, I didn't see this before I uploaded it, before I put the mod on, so ignore that, I'm afraid. But either way, yes, patch 9.3 is here. To move on, let's start with Russia first. The 9.3 brings a very big change to the tech trees of many nations. First of all, new light tanks. The Russians receive an LTTP, or what I'm just going to call the T50-2, as it's rumored to be the same as that. So that's at tier 7. And also at tier 8, the Russians get the T54 lightweight. I freaking knew the MT25 would lead to something. The T54 lightweight, which is basically the more heavily armored, lesser armored version than that, and I feel will be the most heavily armored light tank in World of Tanks. I fear, I suspect. Also, the new heavy tank KV-85 is actually going to be replacing the famous KV-1S. Dun 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 dun. Yes, finally, the KV-1S has had to take a bow out of the stage as it was nerfed. Not just, oh, it's been nerfed, it was nerfed quite severely. But then again, looking at it, now that it's a different tier, I'm definitely going to consider getting this vehicle just to see how good or bad it really has done, or has become since being changed. So yeah, that one is now no longer the tier 6 tank, but it has been replaced by the KV-85, and fingers crossed this one will prove to be a lovely adversary, or a pain in the arse, depending on how you look at it, to see how it fares in combat. So looking forward to seeing that on the field. Going up towards Deutschland, we now have a new light tank for Germany. Instead of having to go through the Leopard, VK2801, the Ausf, or, excuse my French, the fuck all Panther, you now actually have a choice of either going to the new RU251, or the Spa Panzer, as it's has been just called because it's his name. The fastest tank in World of Tanks now. And it's an interesting tank. I don't know whether I'll be going down that line, because I'm not exactly fussed about German light tanks. But if I ever do, I'll definitely have a look and try and get this vehicle anyhow. So there's that new vehicle. And finally, the next and the last big change for American stuff, which is quite famous actually, is the new line of light tanks that the Americans receive. The Chaffee is no longer the highest tier scout that, well, no longer the highest tier sort of tank that goes to nowhere vehicle. It actually now has less. It's kind of been nerfed to a degree in order to compensate for now having 3 other tanks: the T-37, the M41 Walker Bulldog, and of course the most famous of all, the T-49 Sheridan tank. The reason why this is so apparently famous is because the 152 gun launcher conventional. This thing is going to probably do a shit ton of damage, and it only costs 18,000 to get. I can already hear the whimpers and cries of lightly armoured vehicles everywhere. I'm looking at you, France. Anyway, but that said, despite that, that's not the real reason for this video, however. So, now that I've kind of given you a very quick and probably very brutally murdered summary of the patch 9.3, let me get to the point of this actual video, which is the Stug Ausf G. The reason why I'm having a video about this vehicle is because I actually recently discovered, whilst looking through my videos to find, the ones that are absolutely crap and get rid of, I discovered that my Stug 3 review that I thought I uploaded a long time ago to everyone actually was unlisted and no longer, basically very old, too old to consider re-releasing, which is kind of weird. I think it was because it was when I was starting to work with GDTV. For those of you who don't know, a while ago, into my first year of doing YouTube, I met up with a bunch of guys called GDTV. It was a pretty good thing. It was Game Decider, I think it was called. And they offered me the ability of getting more subscribers, learning a bit on how to do more YouTubing, that sort of thing. Basically helping out a new YouTuber. And as such, I would make videos for them. I think I'd upload them and make them unlisted so that the person could, upload it to their channel. So I only, at that time, I uploaded the Stug 3 G review. And it was a good, I feel I did it justice back then. Obviously, I was still very new to doing reviews in that sort of thing. In fact, I think this was when I started to take the review thing seriously. So I started doing reviews on this thing, and unfortunately, for some reason, I never really had the brain cell or the mind to upload it to you guys. So I thought, why not go back in time a little bit? Let's go, well, not obviously, let's not go back to the time where I did the AMX40 review, but let's go back to the point where I, tier-wise. So anyway, without further ado, the Stug. This, I would say, historically speaking, the Stug for me was the first tank that started my appreciation for what I like in a tank destroyer. It's something, it's what I look for now in tank destroyers. Like, for me, if I don't have a turret, I mean, I'm very much used to not having a turret, so it's very weird to have one now. I think the first turreted tank destroyer I ever had, possibly was the Borsig. I don't think it is, but I think, yeah, I could be right in assuming, yeah, I could, no, yeah, the first turreted tank destroyer I ever had in this game was the Borsig. So I'm very much used to having tank destroyers with no turrets, which is why whenever I look for a tank destroyer, the things that I look for in it, I go back to this vehicle. It's one of my, it's close to being, it was one of my favorite tank destroyers of all time, and which actually then led me to go along to find a particular certain vehicle, which now is my most favorite tank destroyer of all time. But still, I will always remember this vehicle for helping me out. And if you're wondering what that famous tank destroyer is, it's this beauty. I love you! But anyway, we're not about this vehicle, it's about this vehicle, the Stug III Ausf G. So, what is it about this vehicle that I absolutely love? What is it about this vehicle that makes me keep this thing despite it being only tier 5? Well, in this review, we're going to find out. Sit back and relax and enjoy. Right, so to start off, hit points. You only have 350. Now that's, for a tier 5 tank destroyer, that isn't bad, but it isn't much. Unfortunately also, now that you're tier 5, you're going to start to encounter things that can very much easily destroy you, given half the chance. So 350, unfortunately, isn't great. Let's see how you fare, though, in comparison to your counterparts. Right, let's start off with the French, because the Chinese don't have any tank destroyers. The first tank destroyer that you'll be comparing up against is the S-35CA. She only has 330 hit points, as unfortunately all French low-tier tanks, and all French tanks have the low hit points. So unfortunately, well, so good for you, you actually have more hit points than him. Now going into Germany, the flak bus has the same amount of hit points, though I fear it's in a slightly less advantageous position due to the fact that it has very little armor. So you're kind of better than it, but you don't really have any hit point advantages over it. Unfortunately, the British at this tier now start to turn around and say "Nyeh, nyeh, 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 nyeh," as they now have the 82 to fight against you now, rather than the Electo. So they have 450 hit points, whereas you only have 350, so 100 more than usual. And unfortunately, worse still, you know, if you've only just gotten to tier 5, you don't really quite know how to defeat this thing. Handy tip: it's the cupola. Going down the list towards the American tier 5 tank destroyers. This is the new, by the way, handy extra tip. This is the new T-49 tank destroyer. Obviously, because you've got the T-49 light tank. This one is the T-67. It's basically the T-49 tank destroyer, only the top turret now, as you see here, actually is open-topped. So just a quick little thing there for you. This thing this vehicle actually has a slight hit point advantage over you, as it already has 340 when stock, but when fully upgraded, it will have 360. So it's 10 more than you. And the same case goes for the Wolverine. Top full upgraded, it will have 360 as well. So a tiny advantage in hit points over you, but every hit point counts in this regard. And finally, the Soviet Union has the same 350 hit points. So, while this is, you know, whilst you are kind of all equal in regards to hit points, this certainly doesn't mean that you can kind of take it easy. You know, this is a vehicle you've got to be careful around. When you're low tier, there are higher and higher chances for you to get hit one hit. And unfortunately, thanks to certain vehicles, i.e. derp guns or artillery, or even if people who use the the KV-85's 122 gun, you can get one-shotted very easily. So be careful. This is not a frontline vehicle. It's a little bit more frontline than, say, the flak bus, but it's certainly not a vehicle you want to be charging into the fray with in a high-tier game. Now, on to tonnage and speed. Now, actually, intriguingly enough, I think it was either in patch 9.2 or 9.3, the Stug actually was given less weight. They made the tank lighter, as this vehicle, with 3 equipment modules attached, has 23.96 tons. I don't think it was as much that previously. And your total tonnage is 25.69. This, in a combination of a 440 horsepower engine, gives you a very decent 40 kilometers per hour speed limit. Can I see the power? Is there a power to weight ratio? No. Speed-wise, this thing can get around pretty well. It's not like lightning fast with acceleration, but you know, give it a couple of seconds and it will get you to your destination with good speed. The real bonus, though, about this vehicle's engine power is its traverse speed, which is 44. Now, the Stug is, I would say, the Stug's strongest point for me, or one of the stronger points, is that this thing is very good at turning, especially when you've got clutch braking. Now, technically, I wouldn't have got clutch braking for a skill, but never mind, we'll go into that later. But yeah, traverse speed-wise, this thing is amazing at turning on the dime. This is one of the aspects of this tank which can save you from getting killed. Certainly has saved my ass in the past, and I'm pretty sure in the future it will probably save your guys as well. So definitely a good feature about this tank. Now, onto armor. Unfortunately, the Stug 3G, while it does have an upgrade over the Hetzer and the Stug B, this is kind of where I say this isn't a frontline vehicle. Unfortunately, thanks to the HD texture update as well, you also now have a bit of a goal here for enemies to shoot at. There's a number of weaknesses, which I'll go into in Tank Inspector. Yeah, you only have 80mm of armor to the front, and as you can see, it's very much unangled. Like, maybe near the top if you're lucky and you're in a low tier game, but more often than not, if someone sees you and shoots you, they pen you very easily. But yeah, you only have 80mm of armor to the front, 30 to the sides, and ironically 50, better armor than the sides, to the rear. But yeah, this thing is not very well armored and certainly has little to no angling capabilities whatsoever. And there are also a couple of other critical weaknesses which, for Stug drivers out there, you've got to know, otherwise it can really screw you over in some games. What kind of weaknesses am I talking about? Well, let's go into Tank Inspector to find out. So here we are on Tank Inspector, here is the Stug, and here are the Stug's armor values. Now, as usual, we'll go from a list from the highest amount of armor to the lowest, then I will discuss to you guys the weaknesses and strengths in armor-wise of this vehicle. Now, unfortunately, Wargaming have done one of their usual tricks of saying that you've got a lot of armor at the front, but not really meaning it. Yes, this vehicle does have 80mm worth of armor at the front, but only covers the lower side of the frontal armor. Yeah, the goalpost, as I call it, and the two parts of armor here and above and around the driver section is the parts which I have 80mm worth of armor. But the problem is both this section and this section is completely flat. So the only section of armor that has angling that's 80mm is this, and it's very little angling. There is a little bit of a lip if you want to have a wooksy. There is a slight lip here of a sort of higher armor, which is angling, which can provide you a sort of a benefit, if you will. But generally speaking, it's very difficult. I don't think you could ever possibly try and hide the massive goalpost that I call, which is this section of armor. It is completely it's just humongous. Big ass target, which also houses one of your bigger weak points, but we'll go into that later. So the actual armor that you receive is not 50mm. No. That is only covering the driver's hatch and a slight lip on the top, and also the rear of your armor as well, which is very tiny as well. No, the actual amount of armor that covers the rest of the frontal section is 30mm worth of armor. Oh dear. Yes, the sides and also parts of the rear as well. It's a very badly armored vehicle. Most of the shit armor is oh dear. Yes, unfortunately the sides is completely flat. There's nothing you can do about it. If you catch a Stug on its side, you can pretty much knock it out within a couple of shots. Or in tier 6 and 7 cases, one. Yeah, or even in tier, I guess even in tier 5 if you've got a derp gun, but you know, I've only caught Stugs when I'm in a KV2. I feel as if I should ask for a refund as well, but whatever. So yeah, the Stug on the side, absolutely buggered. Though at the front, slightly improved, as there is a fairly decent amount of angling. But unfortunately, it only provides you with an extra 10mm worth, maybe just a little bit more of angling. And there is also the ×3 thing, which basically means if the shell that's being fired at this thing has more than 3 times the penetration of, say, 43. So, for argument's sake, if this was 40, you'd have to have something like 120mm worth of pen in order to have the ×3 for it, for example. Or, no, 120. Yeah, I'm stupid. You know, that would be the ×3. So basically, you'd have you know, that would basically it would completely disregard the armor and just penetrate. Now, obviously, most things at tier 5 have some things at tier 5 have over 120mm of worth of penetration, and obviously in a tier 7, so 6 and 7 match, it's just pointless. So yeah, this thing armor-wise, not good at all. I don't think I've ever bounced anything from this. Actually, no, I haven't really bounced anything. Like, I haven't purposely tried to angle. I mean, you do get a rather shockingly large section of, like, spaced and sort of mid-armor on the gun mantlet, but because that, in comparison to the rest of the vehicle, is such a small target, I have probably never been in a circumstance where that is actually useful to me. And more often than not, you'll just get killed anyway. So, while this section of armor is quite ridiculous, it's more a case of if you do get hit there, it's because of God's will, you know, or an anti-Stalin blocking the shot if it's a Russian gun. It's a very interesting bit of spaced armor there. 200, jeez. But anyway, so yeah, this tank, no real angling capabilities whatsoever. Going down the list, you've also got the 25mm here, 16mm at the back, 15mm. Somehow
there, if you can see the colour, it's flashing a bit. And finally, you've got the 10mm of armour on the top of the Stug itself, which is very bad. Now, one more thing before I take you back to the garage. Weaknesses of the Stug. Now, generally speaking, there used to be a chance of fire, but now since 9.3 has come into effect and has taken away that chance, thank God, there's only one real thing you've got to be extra careful about when facing off opponents head-on. Because this tank is based off the Panzer III, off the Panzer III chassis, you also inherit one of the Panzer III weaknesses, which is if someone scores a hit into the goalpost, which isn't hard, there is a chance that they'll not only hit your transmission, but actually kill your engine. And it can happen as well if you've been shot from the side. I've done it as well on many tanks, and unfortunately it's happened to me on a few occasions as well. Shooting this area around the Stug will lead to the Stug's engine dying. Like, not just getting damaged. I mean, if you're lucky, it only gets damaged. But in other cases, you can kill the engine of a Stug very easily, which basically makes this thing practically useless in any kind of combat scenario except one where somehow you're on a hill and you get your engine knocked out, so you can happily roll down the hill to get to cover. If not, this thing generally dies very quickly after losing its engine, so be very careful about that. I mean, anything else, the best tip I can recommend is try not to get sighted in this thing, as it is very badly armoured. Anyway, I'll take you now back to the garage.
Now, onto view range and signal range. Now, while the Stug 3 gets a fairly decent upgrade to the original Hetzer's and possibly the Stug B's view range, unfortunately its signal range is quite crap. You have 310 view range and 415 signal range. Yeah, you only get a tier 6 Fug 7 radio. Oh dear. Well, let's see how you fare in comparison to your closed top tanks. Now, with regards to some tank destroyer lines, I'm enacting the rule of the open top tank syndrome, which is basically if I'm trying to review a tank destroyer which is closed top, I'm not going to count the view range of the open topped, because it's just pointless. They're automatically going to be better than you. But let's have a look, see how they fare with regards to radio range. So just pure radio range wise, the French get access to a tier 7 radio, which gives them 455 signal range. So better than you by a fair amount. Your own compatriot, the Flak Bus, actually gets a Fug 8. So 550 signal range. Oh dear. So your compatriot, while he can't take as much damage, he can certainly report about it very quickly. The AT2, which we can talk about view range wise, has 310. So it's the same as you, but they have access to a tier 8 radio, which gives them 550 signal range, similar to the Flak Bus. So unfortunately, they do whoop your ass something rotten there. The Americans, with their view range, obviously we can't talk about because it's better, they get access to a tier 10 radio. Shit. Yeah, you... Ow. Yeah, tier 10 radio for the T-67. And the Wolverine, while he doesn't get a tier 10 radio, he gets a tier 9 radio, which is basically 200 better than you. So, yeah, the Americans kick your ass something rotten. How about the Soviets? Well, the Soviets' Su-85 has worse view range, being 280, but they get a tier 8 radio anyway. Whoops. Oh, bollocks. Gotta have to get used to it, crap hunter. So, yeah, unfortunately, the Russians whoop your ass quite badly in radio range. In fact, a lot of tanks will beat you badly in radio range. So, unfortunately, you have to be very much aware of that. Now, there are certain things you can do. We'll go into the crew skills into a minute, but there are some things you can do vis-a-vis crew skills to deal with it. But generally speaking, what you want to do is just be very much aware of where you're going in a certain map. Depending on the size of the map, it may not matter, but more often than not, you'll probably have to consider the prospects that is going to be a section of map which you won't see what's going on. You'll be like, right, I have no idea what's going on in that side of the map because you can't see it. The radio range isn't strong enough. So definitely be aware about that, and hopefully it won't cause you too much of an issue. But that is another bit of a weakness. That is another weakness to the Stug 3, is very poor radio range. now onto my favourite thing about any review, the gun. And the Stug 3 definitely has a major advantage as a tier 5 with the gun. I mean, a lot of tank destroyers out there will have a pretty decent gun, but in my opinion, I'd say this gun is probably the best for a tier 5, or at least the best for what you're having to deal with as a tier 5. And that's this thing, the L70. But there are other options in regards to what gun you can use in that. So let's go to the research tree. So when you start out, you'll either start out with this if you've gone through both the Stug 3B and not gotten the top gun, or the Hetzer and not even bothered getting the top gun, which would be very stupid of you. So there is that gun. Or, if you're a smart man, you'll start out with this gun, the L48. Now, as a stock gun, it does the job. 110 pen, very good rate of fire, 15.38 rounds, 0.37 accuracy, and a 1.7 second aiming time. As a stock gun, it'll do you the job. At tier 6 and 7 games, you may encounter a hectic moment because your penetration will probably not be enough to go through most frontal vehicles. So definitely side jobs will probably have to be what you're working for, but it doesn't take too long before you get this thing, the L70, and it's a bloody god. Yeah, as a tier 5 gun, as tier 6 guns go, it's freaking amazing. Well, I've already gone into a few things, but I will definitely say now that this thing is godlike for you. The slightly less rate of fire, 150 pen, 135 damage, and 0.33 accuracy with a 1.7 second aiming time. This is a damn good gun. Damn good gun. It'll certainly help you when it comes to your worst tiering. So if you are put in a very shit match, and you're facing off against ISs, IS2s, Tigers, you know, the worst basically, you will still be able to quite happily take care of those vehicles without any worry. I mean, obviously you got to worry about other things, but for gun-wise, you will be able to do damage. And with the rate of fire at 13.33 rounds per minute, or for me, it's a 3.94 second reload, but with 100% crew and with the rammer and everything, I'm thinking maybe 3.9 seconds, or perhaps 3.85 or something along those lines. But you will be able to have a fast rate of fire. Now, before I go on, let's talk about the other gun. And also, we'll talk about the other weakness of this vehicle. You can also opt to go for this vehicle gun, which would then make the Stug 3 the Stug 42. Now, I know there are people out there, and I know I've gone into this subject enough times to bore the living shit out of you, but it still rings home true. This gun, whilst yes, it can do a fair amount of damage and will undoubtedly get a few laughs as you one-shot a few vehicles, really does limit the effectiveness of your tank. Because in tier 5 games, you'll be fine. In tier 6 games, you'll struggle. Tier 7, no chance. Like, literally, your damage capabilities will be reduced. And the matchmaking this thing gets will guarantee that in this case, this will lose you cash. Guaranteed. I guarantee that you'll at least have a loss in a few of your games. So, do yourself a favour, not use that gun. Don't use that gun. It's pointless. It really limits the capability of the Stug. This thing isn't a frontline machine, and that would make it into a frontline machine, and it won't work, because the armor won't be able to take it. So, do yourself a favour, don't go near that gun, use this gun, the L70, it does the job, it'll earn you a crap ton of cash, and it will certainly give you an assistance when it comes, far more assistance in a tier 7 game than that would. But before we end it on that note, there's one more thing I've got to talk to you about, which unfortunately is the greatest strength, but also the greatest weakness. While you have the strength of the L70, you've got the weakness of its ammunition, as you only have 36 shells. That's right, 36 shells. And unfortunately, your alpha damage isn't strong enough to make it worth your while. Which means I would also, as a veteran of this tank, I would say, take your time with each shot. You've got to make your shots count. Unfortunately, with this thing, I, on a couple of occasions, have run out of ammo during a battle. And I really could have done with some extra ammo because I was the last one alive. yeah, it really sucks when you don't have ammo. So when going into battle, do adopt this mindset of just taking your time. Now, there are occasions where the shells go flying. Also, it's unlikely that you'll reach low ammunition because you've obviously got 15 other guys out there who are doing, fighting as well. But if you are in that scenario where you're the only one alive, take take your time and make every shot count, because unfortunately she isn't very economic with shells. You really cannot afford to waste shells on unpenetrable surfaces or really long distance shots. You can't afford to do that. You've got to know that you can hit, you've got to know where to shoot, otherwise you're going to waste ammo. So, while there is a great thing, it's also a bad thing. Now, onto crew skills and equipment. This is whereupon I tell you guys what I would recommend for this tank to be very efficient, and what skills I would recommend to your crew to make them even better than they are before. We'll start with equipment. Now, obviously, you know the drill. Vents and rammer. No argument. You have them. But the third option is, as always, up to you. However, this is what I would say are the two #1 priorities, and everything else kind of not really being important. One of which actually isn't the enhanced gun laying drive. Now, normally I would say, oh, enhanced gun laying drive and all that jazz, but because of this vehicle's really good L70 1.7 second aiming time, you don't really need to worry about having an extra 10 minus 10%. If you want to go for it, by all means, but it will be a lot of money wasted. I can guarantee you that. So the two things I would recommend, first of all, would be this, the binocular telescope. This basically adds 25% to view range for a stationary vehicle up to 500 meters away. And this is actually kind of where we could use the XVM stats. As you can see here, there's a couple of other sort of things going about. First of all, being the base, which is what the stats would say. The actual, due to the fact that my crew isn't 100%, and the third option is actually what the binos would give me. So the binos, as you can see, give me 384 view range when I'm stationary. Now this kind of works in part with you being a second line vehicle, because when most of the enemy forces are, say for example, on Siegfried, and we'll throw in a random scenario, you're trying to defend tanks from entering the town's main archway. Because you have the binos in place, you can see them before they can see you. And if you're going up against, say, for example, your tier 5 counterpart tanks that are close top, they may not even detect you until they get right up close, by which point you'll have spotted them for your team, or you'll have killed them yourself already. So that having the binos there is very handy. Now, why I would say binos are more important than, say, coated optics, which does only 10%, is the fact that these things aren't complex equipment. You can quite happily demount them and put them on other vehicles with other equipment modules attached. And if you want to have them on again, bam, there you go. You get yourself your equipment you can detach and reattach whenever you want. The second piece of equipment I would recommend is the camouflage net. As you having obviously, as I said before, in the armor regards, you're not a frontline vehicle, and if you're spotted, there's a high chance that derpers or tanks with a very large caliber will love to nom on you. Why? Because you've only got 350 hit points. So having a camouflage net, which once again is a demountable equipment, as I am showing you right now by doing it to the E25, you can quite happily reattach it onto the Stug, giving you that extra few points of camouflage, which will, fingers crossed, give you the extra few seconds you need to either throw in the killing shot or to help spot your opponents for you, spot the opponents before they can spot you. Anything like that at all, which will make utilizing this certain equipment more, extra useful than, say, if you don't have a bino, as the camouflage net is way cheaper. It's like, what, 100,000? Is it like 100,000? Yeah, it's about 100,000, so it's much cheaper than the binos, and it's certainly a good equipment if you are not super confident and you're not entirely sure if you are hidden. This will certainly give you an advantage. Everything else I wouldn't really recommend. I mean, yeah, you can spend money on a spore liner to avoid derpers, but it's not really worth it. I would say camo and binos are the only real pieces of equipment that you need for this vehicle. Now, on to crew skills. Now, because these crew members were from different vehicles, I think a fair amount of these guys were from the Stug III I think some of these guys are from the Flak bus as well. Their skills, they're not on the skills that I would, you know, automatically set. So, so I think especially this guy, I think he was from like a previous tank. So yeah, what I would recommend for your crew? Well, naturally, your commander, who isn't the radio operator this time, repairs or camo, doesn't matter which, probably more suitable to have camo rather than repairs. Train him up to 100%, then obviously do the skill drop for the 6th sense, as it's very important. Gunner, I think I did change. Gunner switch to camo, as obviously you are a tank destroyer and you're not very nice when you're spotted, so obviously that works out. For driver, now this is kind of different once again, because I think I had this on the Stug III, which is why I had clutch braking, because the Stug III needed it. But maybe in this case, I wouldn't recommend this being the #1 skill you should go for. Perhaps instead opt for off-road driving, as this basically reduces your ground resistance whilst driving on moderately soft and soft terrain. Definitely those, it's not a bad idea if you go for this first. It'll certainly help you out when it comes to turning, give you those extra few traverse degrees, but I would say preferably off-road driving would help, as it would actually help your maneuverability and acceleration, which of those two things certainly useful to have. Finally, you've got your radio and loader, which means that you have 2 sets of skills to work around. Now, I would definitely say focus on the loader skills. For example, 90, go with whatever kind of skills. Perhaps maybe signal boosting rather than repairs would be a good idea, because it extends your signal range. And then once that hits 100%, swap it out once you've done the procedure, of course, which is getting another skill up to 40 before you can do it. Otherwise, the drop will give you a nasty penalty. Then swap it out for adrenaline rush. Now, of course, this is the kind of last act sort of thing, and if you have, you know, less than 10% of your hit points left, because it's not off, it's rare that you might have it if you get hit by a derp, but if you do, those extra, you know, that extra 10% reload speed will possibly save your life, so certainly a good idea. After which, go straight back to signal boosting to hopefully give your tank an extra buff and advantages for stuff.
So there's the talking side of this review done. Let's get into a couple of replays which hopefully highlight the best features about the Stug III. And we're back, and we are in a replay, a tier 5 replay to say the least, on Sacred Valley. I haven't actually had too many games on this. I am joined in this platoon by Nimbus and De Penguin from the Priests of Wololo group. And this video, with this replay, hopefully can highlight some of the advantages of just how maneuverable and efficient this vehicle can be in close to medium range engagements. Now this is an encounter mode, but rather than go straight to the base, both Nimbus, Penguin and I are charging up to the north to see if we can take on any counter to any flankers who may attempt to hit us from the rear. And Nimbus is driving the KV-1S, and Penguin is driving the T1 Heavy. I think I might have mentioned that before, but whatever. It's the changed, I'm going to say changed KV-1S. I think that's the best way to call it. So the game starts, our AMX-40 decides to take on, or getting bumps into a Ram 2. So knowing my dislike for that vehicle very well, you will automatically assume what will happen to that vehicle. And, oh, what a surprise, he's dead. Combinator, not paying enough attention to the frontal flank as well, gets completely wrecked. Hetzer, with the standard L10 gun, surprisingly bounces that first shot, but doesn't the second. The enemy team then decides to peg it towards the base and is now starting the cap. Now at first I was trying to get the guys to try and push over towards the 9-0 line with the hopes to outflank and perhaps take them from the rear faster, but then of course the Ram 2 was starting to present himself as a pretty big threat to the team, so we all opted to go for the Ram 2 instead. I think the Ram 2 is a premium vehicle as well, like tier 5 American premium vehicle. So we get into position, getting nearby to the destroyed ruins, getting very much on this position. As soon as I'm in, can quickly give out the fire, that 1.7 second aiming time, really assisting our team getting the kills there. Penguin does take the kill from me. Now right here, I want you guys to pay attention to just how fast and efficient this vehicle is. There's Nimbus full speed, catching up to him. There's Penguin full speed. He's at good speed with them. Like, equally, I'm as fast as them.
and my gun's fast as well. This is what I look for in tank destroyers right here. Fast, reliable, fast aiming, high rate of fire, doesn't matter, but it helps. Just generally the ability to screw over targets quickly and be able to move from position to position. So I get a kill shot, enemy KV-1, taking my time, nudged by the combinator, not appreciated, but what can you do? Pop a second shot in, 133. Couldn't quite get it. I try my luck, and unfortunately my luck says, hey, destroy the building, not the tank. I pop another shot, able to hit him and do a sufficient amount of damage. Then, of course, Heavy's now finally in position to start pushing and charging on the team. Lehman Russ up top, giving our guys hell. But we all focus on KV-1, Chinu Kai. Slightly out of position. I fire. Unfortunately, it bounces with the clutch shot. Move forwards, taking my time. Once again, bounce, but this time focus, and there's the kill. So 4 kills. Crap. Yes, 4 kills. T-67 taking fire, and unfortunately the Hetzer knocks out the T-67 before we have a chance. So what's in the cap? Getting close now. KV-1 pops a shot, I think it was something like that. But then it's a T-80. Take your time. Fire. Reset the cap. Then I spy the combinator. I fire a first shot, very much clutch, missing completely. Second shot goes in home. Taking my time, focusing on the Chinu, then going straight back to the combinator. Fire a shot. Would have probably tracked him, but the next shot only just missed out. Unfortunately then, KV-1S is knocked out by KV-1. I bounce forward and I take a shot. KV-1 pops a shot as well. I just about recover, and Penguin steals the kill. So very lucky on that one. And also, where the hell did it bounce? Ah yes, bounced on the upper area, which is very rare. That was like the first time I've bounced anything onto this one. Unfortunately, Nimbus heads off in the game. And so now I've only got 10 shots. Here's another note. How many engagements did I have? Only 10 shells remaining. Well, at least for my standard. So Penguin gives me a boost up. Lehman Russ in position, trying to get his attention away from him. I get his attention for a bit. Our tanks are popping shots against him. Penguin decides to try and move up. Just about in position, so I fire, hit and track. Fire another shell, hit and track again. Taking my time, just about reload, and I'm dead. God damn it. But that said, the game is over. Penguin was able to get a 5th kill, and we were victorious. Unfortunately, I did not survive, but that's kind of sadly how I roll at times. If I have to die for the cause, then I die for the cause. But still, what's a very fancy pants destruction thing? Cool. But anyhow, so that was that game. I'll go take you now to see the result. So here we are for the results of that game. Just a quick note, I might have to keep moving the screen up and down a bit, just so that way it doesn't like black screen on me. Don't know why, it just does that. But yeah, that result was a mastery ace tanker. Yeah, that was crazy. I didn't anticipate that. I mean, unless that's the game saying you're the only one driving this thing, or the game saying I'm pretty good. Don't know. Either way. So yeah, ace tanker and a high caliber. That's pretty awesome. Buggered a number of crew modules. It's annoying that on the website you can't actually see which specific ones you buggered up, because that would be kind of cool, but oh well. For the team score, going just on pure experience-wise, I didn't get the most. That one belongs to Penguin. Obviously, he did, he got more kills. If I had killed the Lehman Russ, perhaps it could have been different. But either way, it doesn't really matter. All the platoon mates are in the top 5, so that's pretty awesome. Damage-wise, we are all, nearly we're all first. We're pretty much third, second, first, fourth. Nimbus got himself a Confederate. Penguin didn't get anything, but he did get the top scoring experience, so I suppose that counts. That has to count for something. But yeah, very good game, very good amount of experience, and certainly goes to prove how efficient this thing is when it comes to rapid fire, movement, and keeping up with your platoon mates if you are all top tier. Now let's go into a tier 7 game to see how she fares in the worst kind of matchmaking. And we're back for the second game. We are in the new Mirror Vanker, which is very nice. I'm platooned up at the time with, where is he? Nimbus. There he is, right there. So yes, Nimbus in his Stug. And as you can see, we are very badly tiered. We are nearly just we're pretty much scout level, which is rather insulting. And this replay is hopefully a good attempt to show how effective you can be, even in bad matchmaking. So, as this was the actual first time I had ever played on this map combatively, we're possibly going to make some mistakes. But if you haven't checked out what the video, if you don't know what the latest update has done, / living under a rock, basically bigger map, flatter areas, changed the forest. But still a lot more bushes than usual. I'll be honest with you, parts of this map, I'm not so keen on. But anyway, so the first enemy sighted is the enemy Hellcat, tier 6 tank. Chaffee decides to go around him. Don't think he got a chance of a shot off. Then then also an IS and MT-25 is sighted as well. So, looking goodish so far. KV-85 approaching the forest along with the A-44 and Chaffee tank. Nimbus and I take up a sort of defensive position around the rear. Hopefully, getting ourselves into position, hopefully to be able to get some shots in on whoever tries to flank. KV-85 decides to go YOLO and goes right over the hill, despite this being an MT-25, and I think RIS on our team gets a kill. And with this Tiger, I'm not proud with what I do. I sight the Tiger, and I donk the first shot. Second shot, donk another one. And finally, third shot, don't even think it even went near the tank. Because it was at this point that I was mainly paranoid of that IS tank. It had been sighted, but we hadn't been able to see where it was. And because the KV-85 died very quickly, and it wasn't too far away from our position, we were very much worried that he would spot us and kill us. Enemy Hellcat is sighted, and Nimbus gets a quick shot off to finish him off. Me paranoid as ever about the enemy Tigers and ISs, trying to preserve as much hit points as possible. Wait for the Churchill to move up into position. When we're within tier 7, anything above tier 6 matchmaking, you've got to be a supportive role mainly. So, IS tank, first shot goes in. Second shot, not entirely sure what happened there. Third shot, the hell, I shot you on the side. Another shot, oh for God's sake, seriously. Pop another shot, finally do some damage. IS gets completely hammered. Pop another shot into position, not unfortunately enough to do it. Ah, KV-1, I can pen that. Yep, pen the first shot. Looking all good. Fire again. What the Christ. And then, of course, he gets killed. The A-44 once again steals my kill. And... ah, cool. Tiger. Right, okay. Fire the first shot. The hell game. Okay, second shot. And that shot goes into Narnia. Okay, let's focus on the KV-85. Yeah, we penned the KV-85. Fast, rapid fire. We're doing a crap ton of damage. Yeah, awesome. And the bastard AA-44 gets another kill. Damn it. Tiger 1. Let's see if we can get this guy. Last shell. Foya. Yes! Finally, we don't have the A-44 stealing my kills. Anyway, so hopefully that little excerpt bit shows you just how effective the L70 can be against multiple targets. I mean, rapid fire wise, you could see how many shells I was putting out there. I mean, obviously, once again, another downside is the lack of ammunition. But that said, this thing could still do a fairly decent amount of damage, even in tier 7 games. Yes, I did just run into a building. My bad. So this game is pretty much over now. Enemy Crusader sighted in front of us. Now this is where we start getting a bit stupid. Nimbus goes around the left side of the house. I pop around the right. We both put hits of the guy in. Nimbus takes a little less damage. I don't quite have the traverse, and the bloody Churchill steals the kill from us. So unfortunately, we don't get the kill. Churchill Mark 1 is trying to duke it out with the remaining tanks, but obviously considering how much or how little support he's getting from E-25, he ain't gonna last long.
Nimbus moving into position. I'm telling him, try and get the shot in, try and do as much damage. Hopefully we can get a kill shot beforehand. Nimbus fires, misses. I fire, I hit. And Nimbus gets the kill shot. And then I die. Damn you, D25! Anyhow, so at this point, I'm telling Nimbus, right, okay, let's get revenge. Ram the bastard. Or if you can't, just shoot him. So, Nimbus is the fastest on the scene. E25 fires, hits, and Nimbus ram kills. Just before the thievy A44 shoots and try in an attempt to steal the kill. So, yeah, the Stug. In a tier 7 game, we did a crap ton. Maybe in the sense of damage, we won't do as much due to the fact of other tanks having a high, some guns having high DPM. But even in a tier 5 game, a Stug can do a fair amount of damage and potentially change the turn the tide of the game. So anyway, I will now take you to the results screen. So there you have it, the Stug III Ausf G. Summary time. For me, the Stug 3 is always going to be a legend. I will still keep this vehicle regardless of what other people might say. Some people may look at this tank with unfavourable odds, saying about the armour being shit, or the gun being poor, or, you know, you can't work at tier 7. You know, some people like this tank, some people don't. I personally love this thing. The gun arc is perfect, the speed, while at times it can hamper you, with regards to acceleration, it's still a very good amount of acceleration, very good top speed. When you're supporting your teammates, it's just divine. Only critical weaknesses of this vehicle are, of course, the fact that you've got poor radio range, very easy to destroy engine at the front, and, of course, the very low ammunition that you get. But if you can maintain a sort of close proximity to your allies, making sure not to stay true to the front line and not firing off as many shots as soon as the game starts, then you'll see a very good service with this vehicle. This thing will see you through a lot of thick and thins, and even in low tier games you can still achieve a fairly good result in most forms of combat. So thank you very much for watching this review, guys. If you like this kind of content, do feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel. If you yourself are a YouTuber, a World of Tanks player, or a World of Tanks player who records YouTube, if there's anything I can do to improve the performance of the next vid, make the other stuff even more awesome, anything like that at all, feel free to let me know in the comment section as well, down below as well. Said that twice now, huzzah. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. This is Crap Hunter signing out, and I'll catch you next time.